1 second, chat. I forgot to hit the record button. That was a close one. Rewind. Welcome to the Pride of Detroit preview podcast. It's First Bite. Hey, everybody. We're back. We're ready to preview a Lions game after a bye week. Lions versus Jaguars. As you can see, if you're watching live on Twitch, it's the game of the week. The 0-4, or the 1-4 Jaguars versus the 1-3 Detroit Lions. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I am your host of First Bite. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. With me, as always, my co-host for First Bite, Ryan Matthews, at Ryan_POD on Twitter. Ryan, how we doing tonight?
I drank coffee at 6 o'clock in the evening, so I'm zooted.
Love it. Love it. That's the kind of energy we need for this huge matchup. NFC versus AFC. Titan versus Titan.
Cat scratch fever. I don't know. What else do you want?
I don't know.
We shouldn't be talking about people getting fevers in this day and age.
That's true. Why would you do that? And then bring attention to it.
In this economy.
Anyways, if you're new to First Bite, our preview podcast, we like to bring on a guest from the other side to see what the matchup looks like from their point of view, and this week is no exception. This week we have Ryan O'Blennis over from Big Cat Country. He's a staff writer there, but you also may know him locally as the managing editor over at The Only Colors, the Michigan State blog over at SB Nation. Ryan, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. The bye week was a nice break for us, but at the same time, I would really love to get on that winning streak going again. And no offense, Ryan, but the Jaguars seem like a kind of team in which the Lions may be able to do that. So let's get started where it all started this year. Let's start with the offseason in Jacksonville. It was an eventful one for Jacksonville. They seemed to go on a bit of a fire sale. They traded Nick Foles, A.J. Bouye, Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue. They cut Leonard Fournette. What happened? Was this a necessary blow-up, or was this just like everything reached a fever pitch with the dysfunction over in Jacksonville and, it was just a crater?
I think to a degree some of it was a necessary purge, but, there's other players that I wish that they either kept or, got more for, such as Calais Campbell. Basically traded him away for a ham sandwich. Like, he's still, he's older, but he still has a lot to give. And he was a great leader for the team. That said, Jacksonville really wanted to go to a youth movement. There are 16 rookies, including 4 undrafted rookies on the roster right now. So, this is a team that is, not really built to compete right now. So Lions definitely have a chance this weekend, but, things are looking brighter for the future. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so far in this 2020 season, the defense has just been absolutely abysmal. What's going on with their defense? What's going on the defensive side of the ball? Is anything going right? Is anything trending in the right direction, or is it just all bad?
Miles Jack has been the one bright spot, I'd say, on the defense. He was playing pretty much at an all-pro level through the first 3 games. I think he had 11 tackles in each. He missed last week's game. But the Jaguars, they signed Joe Schobert in the offseason. And so now he's playing Mike in the middle. That allowed Jack to slide over to the will position on the weak side, which is a much more natural fit for him. Early in his career, he played on the strong side and looked promising. Then for whatever reason, the coaching staff decided to switch him over to Mike, and that really didn't work out. He's much more of a sideline to sideline guy, and shouldn't be responsible for calling the plays. Just let him run free and make plays. So that's been the bright spot. But yeah, the defense overall has been very, very bad. Todd Wash, the defensive coordinator, he rarely calls blitzes for whatever reason, and the Jaguars just struggle to get pressure. They struggle to get sacks. They can't get off the field on third down. And again, they're a really, really young unit. You got C.J. Henderson starting at cornerback, the 9th overall pick after your boy Okuda. And he looked very good in the first game against the Colts and has kind of struggled a little bit since, had his ups and downs. He didn't play last week either against Houston. And there's some other young guys that are really having to step in and get reps, like the Jaguars' other first-round pick, Caleb Chase on defensive end. He's getting his reps in. Davon Hamilton from Ohio State. Like these guys, they and DJ Hayden, the nickelback, he got hurt, former Lion.
Yep.
So he missed last week too. So, that they've dealt with some injuries there, and the team just doesn't have a lot of depth to deal with injuries. But even the starters are there's a lot of growing pains there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think we're going to draw a lot of parallels during this preview of how similar the teams are, especially defensively. You say a lot of things that I'm sure Lions fans are nodding their head to. Not blitzing a lot, not getting a lot of pressure, not a lot of depth anywhere. The only difference might be that the Jaguars have an excuse. They sent away all their good players, and they're super young. The Lions sent away all their good players, but kind of just replaced them with old players. And so it's certainly not as optimistic on our end. But let's dive a little bit into that rookie class because, as you mentioned, there's 16 rookies on that roster, 12 of them being draft picks. You mentioned a little bit about C.J. Henderson, Clavon Chason. Are there any other guys that are getting significant playing time, maybe standing out at all?
On the offensive side of the ball, Laviska Shenault's being used kind of like a Swiss Army knife, the second-round pick out of Colorado. He's a wide receiver, but he also lines up as a halfback, as a wild cat quarterback. Line up in the slot. He'll play out wide. They just want to get the ball in his hands, and he looks promising. He's hard to take down. He's a big man, but he's fast. He dealt with some injuries at Colorado, and actually I don't think he practiced today with the hamstring thing, but so far so good with him. So I like him a lot. And, James Robinson, the undrafted free agent, that's really been the big surprise at running back. He was the reason why the team felt comfortable moving on from Leonard Fournette. And, just even after watching the first game or two for him, why. He's very dynamic. He's good out of the backfield catching the ball. He can run the ball. He's not afraid to run around you or run you over if he has to. He hurdles some dudes. He's just he's a good player. He was a gem of a find as an undrafted state. So the problem with him though is that the Jaguars have often been playing from behind lately. So because of game script, he hasn't been involved late in the game. And to me, the Jaguars, especially against the Lions rush defense, they need to give him the ball and they need to grind the clock and open up things for Gardner Minshew in the passing game.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on the offense a little bit right there, Ryan, but their offensive numbers in terms of like their efficiency numbers and things of that nature seem to be pretty good. Like the Jags seem to be like a pretty like solid team on offense. What's really the reason for that? And I know you mentioned the run game doesn't have a chance to flourish. Do you think that's something that'll really happen this week against Detroit?
To answer your second question first, yes, I do, because again, the Lions' rush defense is about as bad as the Jaguars. But I think Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator, had a lot to do with it. He calls good plays. I think Minshew is a good fit for the system that he's trying to run with his kind of variation of the West Coast. They use some, pre-snap motion, a little bit of play action, a little bit of deception, stuff like that. The problem with the offense is that they just need to do it on more of a consistent basis. They're good on first down, but they struggle on third down. So you're picking up yards on first down, that's all good, but you got to move the chains once you get into those third down, fourth down type situations. And so it's been a real shift because like the 2017 Jaguars team that went to the AFC Championship, that was built all around the defense, and the offense was terrible. Blake Bortles was at the helm, and actually that team had a good rushing attack, but that's besides the point. The point is the Jaguars have struggled offensively for many years, and the defense has been good, and now it's kind of the opposite of that. I will say in last week's game against Houston, it was a little bit more of the defense stepping up and a little bit more of the issues with the offense with turnovers and things like that. But overall, so far this season, the offense has definitely been more of the strength.
I want to touch more on the offense because it's really interesting to me. You look at all like the rate stats, like Ryan was saying, they're rushing for 4.6 a carry as a team. Minshew's got almost 100 passer rating and averaging 7.3 yards per attempt, which isn't fantastic, but not bad at all. Yet the team is 26th, I think, in scoring. Is the reasoning for that simply they're always playing from behind and they have to push the ball? Is it, they're turning the ball over? you mentioned not good on third down. What exactly is holding this team back from simply scoring? Because I look at even the red zone numbers are good. They score an average of 5.6 yards per red zone trip, with 6 in the NFL. So I've struggled to find what exactly the reason is for the low scoring on offense.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? I think that with the Jaguars, they are playing from behind a lot, so I think maybe some of those numbers are inflated in the fourth quarter, but I wouldn't say that is, the reason for why their numbers look good. If you look at Minshew's stats, he's completing something like 72% of his passes, something like that. So he's been highly efficient in that regard. But there's been, like I said, issues on third down. There's been issues with turnovers. There's been issues with some of the play calls in certain situations. Like I was saying earlier, I like Jay Gruden's play calling overall. But there was a play last week with Houston where it was like 4th and 1 or something like that, and they tried to do some reverse pass with James Robinson. He fumbled the ball. Just stuff like that. Like, similar to being a Lions fan, being a Jaguars fan is a lot of heartbreak.
Yeah.
And you just come to kind of expect that kind of stuff with them. But with the offense, they are able to pick up a decent amount of yards in the air, but they are playing from behind a lot, so maybe that has something to do with it. There was an article on Big Cat Country I wrote last week about their formation tendencies and things like that, and I think they're a little bit predictable too, because when they're in the shotgun, it was something like 84% of the time they're passing the ball. When they're under center, it's something like 73% running the ball. So I think maybe defensive coordinators are possibly catching on to that a little bit. So I don't have like one definitive answer to that question. I think it's multiple things. But overall, the offense is improved, but the scoring is still the major issue.
Yeah. So speaking of some other issues that the Jaguars might have this weekend, you got no Laviska Shenault, as you mentioned, at practice on Wednesday. No DJ Shark. Who are the backups at wide receiver? Like, does Jacksonville have an emergency plan there? Do they have any depth at wide receiver?
So Chark, obviously the offense changes a lot if he's not available. You saw that in the Miami Dolphins game. So the backup receivers you got. So obviously Chark is their number one. Keelan Cole's really stepped up this year, kind of filled that number 2 role. Chris Conley, also kind of number 2, number 3. He had a bad game against the Dolphins in which Chark missed. So if Chark is going to miss this week's game, look for him to try to step up. Then there's Shenault, obviously. There's another rookie, Colin Johnson. He's 6'6", big target. D.D. Westbrook has been a guy that has been inactive for a lot of these games. Because I guess they feel good with those other receivers. So if Chark misses, then he'll probably be active. But those are the names to watch out for at receiver.
In other injury news, it does look like Josh Allen and Myles Jack are at least trending in the right direction. You mentioned they missed last week's game. I think they practiced at least in a limited fashion on Wednesday. How much of a difference does it make if those two are in the game, especially since, as you were mentioning, not a lot of pass rush coming from this team? I think they only have, 5 sacks on the season or so?
Yeah, not very many. So Josh Allen makes a big difference, even if he's not getting to the quarterback or getting the sacks and the pressure. I think he's commanding that kind of attention from the offense, double teams or things like that. And like I said, Myles Jack, he's been playing at an all-pro level. So, if he is able to go this week, that's going to make a huge difference, I think, for the Jags. With Allen, he had a very promising rookie year, a bit of a slow start this year. But again, I think that's because, offenses are giving him more attention. So it would just be nice to see somebody else step up, like Chason or Adam Gostis or Taven Bryan, for God's sakes. He's been had a really rough start to his career, I'd say.
That's a name that a lot of Lions fans really liked in the pre-draft process. I remember, even myself, I was a big Taven Bryan fan. What's been the deal with him so far?
Inconsistency. He's just, he's shown flashes. I think the Jaguars initially tried to start him out as a defensive end. They realized he's more natural playing in the interior, trying to rush the passer from, 3 technique and stuff like that. And like I said, he's shown flashes, but he just hasn't done it on a consistent basis. So that's kind of the next step for him, is kind of taking that role on more and, just helping his team out more.
All right, I got one more question before we head into our first break. I want to talk a little bit about Gardner Minshew, because he obviously is a very popular guy over there in Jacksonville. I kind of want to know how much of that is real. How much do you believe like he could potentially be the quarterback of the future, and how much of it is just like, it feels like a meme a little bit. We're all obsessed with his mustache, and I mean, I've seen him play a little bit. I saw him in that Thursday night game earlier in the season, and just kind of seems like a check down Charlie, for no other better word. Am I missing out on something? Does he have a lot of potential to be this team's franchise quarterback going forward?
I think that what gets lost in the shuffle with Minshew is that people have these super high expectations for him because he's starting now. But if you recall, he was a 6th-round draft pick,
right?
And he pretty much had better numbers than Kyler Murray as a rookie. He won Rookie of the Week like 7 times last year, but they didn't even nominate him for Rookie of the Year, whatever. So his problem is also kind of doing it more on a consistent basis and making better decisions late in the game. He's definitely a guy that I always say, I don't think he's a guy who's single-handedly going to win you games, but I don't think he's going to usually lose them for you either. He needs to do a better job of holding onto the football with fumbles and stuff like that. I don't think, going into the season, everybody said, oh, Jacksonville's tanking. They're going to draft Trevor Lawrence #1 overall. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, no. First of all, the Jags have been bad forever, and they've never even had the #1 pick, not even when they were a first-year franchise in 1995. So I don't think they're going to have the #1 pick to draft Lawrence, first of all. And second of all, I think that, Minshew is going to do everything he can to prove that he is a starter. He had a very good opening week game against the Colts. He went 19 for 20. Then he had a very nice game against the Tennessee Titans in week 2. The Jaguars fell just short. And, after those 2 weeks, Jaguars fans had a lot of confidence in him, a lot of confidence in the team. Since then, it's really kind of faltered. They lost to 3 winless teams in a row. Minshew has had his moments and also, had his struggles. But I think that's kind of natural for any kind of mid-tier NFL quarterback. You're going to have your ups and downs with those kind of players. Me personally, I'm a big Minshew fan. I like him. I like his personality. He's a great leader. His teammates respect him. But yeah, for him, I just like to see him do it on more of that consistent basis, kind of like what I was talking about with Brian. He just needs to, be a guy that they can rely on more often. But in my opinion, there's no reason to write Minshew off just yet.
All right, and with that, we will take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the matchup between the Lions and the Jaguars, who's got the advantage where, and we'll talk some predictions right on the other side. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right. Gonna go over to our live chat for a second here. First of all, thank you, Big Al, for your 2-month subscription. He says, woohoo,
nice.
two months of standard Lions pain. Yep. Plenty coming ahead, too. Still 2 more months of the season, bud.
Try being both a Lions and a Jaguars fan.
Yeah.
That just seems like,
I like
self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a second before we get back on air? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like, where did the Jaguars fandom come from? Why are you doing this to yourself?
So do you guys remember that old game for Super Nintendo, Tecmo Bowl?
Of course,
3
yeah.
or whatever?
Yeah.
So, I was I don't know, 8, 9. The game was probably 2 or 3 years old at this point. I was at my dad's house, and I discovered it. At this point, I knew nothing about football or NFL teams besides the Lions. And I just, stumbled upon the Jaguars. I was like, oh, their colors are dope.
Yeah.
I like these. And I was like, Jaguars, that's a cool animal. So I really just started playing with them in that game. And then that was right around the time that I actually started watching football. So I started just following the team. Obviously it's hard to watch Jaguars games, especially back then.
Yeah.
But I would keep up as best I can, and it just evolved into this fandom. And I'm still a big Lions fan too. I still keep up everything Lions, stuff like that. But the Jaguars just somehow became my team because of that damn game.
I mean, that's all it takes a lot of time. We got my buddy in the chat says same with him and the Panthers. And I think especially when those expansion teams come along, I think fans that are either maybe not happy with their current fandom or, just not decisive or looking for a second team. Sometimes like Jaguars and Panthers are both fairly new animals to use, right? Like there are not a lot of examples of Jaguars teams in college. I don't think there's any, is there?
Right. And the Jaguars and Panthers came into the league together.
Right. And I love the color scheme of both of them, really.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, Jeremy. I think that there was even a little bit of that with like the Vegas Knights too.
Sure,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think there's this element of like an expansion team kind of being everybody's leftovers, and you want to see like how that all gets baked. And when like the Vegas Knights were really good right from the jump, even correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Panthers and the Jaguars both make it to their respective conference championship games their first year?
Jags. They didn't go in 1995. They went 4-12. The next year they made the playoffs. I think the Panthers may have, but then the Jags went to the AFC Championship in 1999.
Yeah. So I mean, have success like right off the bat. I mean, it's pretty fun.
The Jags were really good in the 90s. I think they made the playoffs every year from 96 to 99. Ever since then, been terrible. They had the 2007 season that was good and the 2017 season that was good. And other than that, I don't. 2005, I think they made the playoffs too. Yeah. But other than that, it's been pretty rough.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think that
better than the Lions.
They've literally had more success than the Lions.
I always ask myself that question, which fan base is more tormented, Jags or Lions? And I'm always like, Lions. They've been around so long and have accomplished less. Like, it's crazy.
It's really no like the only franchise that is even close is the Browns.
Yeah,
there's really no question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'd rather be a Lions fan than a Browns fan.
So I mean, So when they joined as expansion team in 95, I see that they won their division championship in 98 and 99.
Yep.
So they had more success in one decade than the Lions have had in how many years?
It's so sad, man.
I'm glad we're cutting this part out of the audio podcast. A question from our chat. Who's the best Jaguars quarterback of all time?
Mark Brunell, without a doubt.
Oh.
And I actually think, David Garrard was actually really solid. I liked him a lot. There you go, Ryan.
Yes.
I think Minshew's probably the best guy they've had since Garrard.
Byron Leftwich was pretty good too. I mean,
he had his moments. Garrard ended up running him out of town, but
right. Well, I can't be mad about that.
Right, but when you've dealt with like Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles and Chad Henne, at least with the Lions, like Stafford's always been solid for the most part. You always have consistent QB play.
That's fair. Yeah. Someone from our chat says, Lions and Jags fan, get this man a beer.
100%.
By the way, Tably, thank you for the follow. What's that?
Said I'll go grab me an Oktoberfest.
There you go. 'Tis the season. All right. I think we're ready to go. People are talking. What's the name of that movie? Friday Night Lights? No, that's not Friday Night Lights. What's the Willie Beeman movie, Ryan? You know.
Any
Given Sunday. Sorry. My bad. My bad, chat. That movie. I remember seeing that in the theaters, and I literally got motion sickness.
That movie isn't about football. It's about Vietnam. I'm telling you, go and watch that movie again, and you're like, this is not a football movie. This is like Oliver Stone trying to make a movie about Vietnam.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just like
Al Pacino had a good speech in it. That's all I really remember.
Yeah,
it's the Inches speech, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It is really good.
Ryan, you want to kick off the second segment since that's your question right at the top? Once I can do the intro.
Sure.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you do the intro and I'll take it.
Cool. Welcome back to First Bite, our preview podcast. We're previewing the Lions' Week 6 game against Jacksonville Jaguars, and we got Ryan O'Blennis with us from Big Cat Country, a staff writer over there, and your managing editor of The Only Colors, the Michigan State blog. Ryan, let's get into the matchups here. What do you want to know about the Jaguars?
What I want to know about the Jaguars, personally, is are they good or are they bad? And I understand that they're probably more bad than good, but they have had some impressive performances. Like they knocked off the Colts in week 1. They had a really kind of like shoot it out, drag it out, close game against the Titans, who look like they're legit and they're actual contenders. So they've had some good stuff, but then they've also, they got shellacked by the Dolphins, they got beat by the Bengals, and then they lost last week to the Texans, who just fired their head coach and GM. So, like, were the Jaguars like fool's gold in the beginning of the season, and they've just revealed themselves to be bad, or what is the deal with the Jaguars as a whole?
Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question, yeah, like that's the thing, right? I don't know if they're playing down to their competition and playing up to their competition, but to me, when you look at the current roster, the issue is that they're just not ready to compete with most NFL teams right now because they're so young, they're so inexperienced, they don't really have, I think, what it takes to compete with some of those better teams. And I think the Colts game was maybe a bit of, okay, there was no preseason. The off season was bizarre, obviously, with everything going on. It was just different for every team. Phillip Rivers maybe didn't have the time he needed to get ready for the Colts. So I think the Jags were able to kind of go in there and surprise the Colts a little bit with what they were doing. Maybe they were a little bit well prepared, a little bit more well prepared than the Colts. So they were able to take that one. The second game against Tennessee, the offense played great, but the defense was pretty abysmal. The Jaguars had the first 3 games of the year, they allowed an opening drive touchdown. I don't think I've ever seen that. So, most of the issues are on the defensive side of the ball, as we kind of mentioned before. And, with the offense, it's more of a consistency thing. So I would kind of agree that, yeah, the Jaguars are more bad than good right now. But really what it boils down to is just the inexperience. I think this team is building itself up to be good in a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever.
Well, we've mentioned that, we're both not happy with our team's defense. Offense on both sides of the ball has potential. So I guess my question is, are we in for a shootout? Is that what, we know the Lions kind of like to avoid shootouts. We know they like to kind of establish the run, do these long possessions. Maybe this is a week they change that up out of the bye week. But from the Jaguars' point of view, is that the game plan too? We talked about how much of a mismatch it is with the Jaguars' run game versus the Lions' run defense. Would they rather just run out the clock, run out these long possessions, and just kind of hammer the Lions? Or would they be okay kind of getting into a shootout if Minshew has to air it out?
Yeah, that was something I was thinking about too, about this matchup is, I could see this being a shootout, but, if I'm Jay Gruden calling the plays, I'm trying to grind the clock out, give the ball to James Robinson, let him, gas that defense and just control the clock. And I also think, if you're able to do that, then you're going to open things up in the play action pass game. You're going to allow Minshew better opportunities. So, I do think this is going to end up being a close game. That might be a shootout or it might be low scoring, but I do think that these teams are going to compete with each other neck and neck all the way through the game. They're both pretty desperate to get a second win. And, so I definitely think it's going to be close.
Now, you mentioned too, Ryan, that the Jags have a little bit of a banged up secondary, CJ Henderson missing time and just being and DJ Hayden also missing time. They seem to be picking up everybody's like spare parts too, like Sidney Jones, but I think he got a pick last week, right?
Yeah, he did. He looked impressive, actually. I was pretty happy with that signing because when they originally signed him, they just signed him to the practice squad, low risk. And when Hayden and Henderson went down, he stepped up. So
yeah, that must be nice because in Detroit, when the DBs go down, it turns into, and God bless his soul, but like Tony McRae is just not a defensive player. He's a special teamser,
Yeah.
But the Jags have this, pass defense that maybe it can be a little hamstrung if they're not getting that pass rush. Their defensive backs are, banged up and dinged up and things like that. Like you as a Lions fan, also knowing the Jags defensive backfield, do you think this is the week where Matthew Stafford just throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns or what?
I could definitely see that. I think the Jags defense, like I said, they were banged up against the Texans, but they actually played a lot better. So like we said, Sidney Jones kind of stepped up. He got the pick, and so I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he's going to throw for 400 yards, but I could definitely see a pretty big game for Stafford. I know he's had kind of a quiet start for his terms this season. I think that he's going to probably have a nice game. Yeah.
Can I turn the question right back on you, Ryan? Because I feel like we talked about this exact scenario last week or 2 weeks ago against the Saints. Like, we knew that was probably going to turn into a shootout, and we both wondered to ourselves, are the Lions finally going to kind of let the reins free with Matthew Stafford? And early in the game, I think they kind of did in that game. They let him take some deep shots, and then they got conservative a little bit, and guess what? 35 straight points from the Saints. So is it they've had a bye week to think it over, Ryan. They're healthy. They're healthy. All their offensive weapons are healthy at this point. They know they've had 2 weeks to prepare for Jacksonville. They've seen, they're not a great run defense, but they're definitely a bad pass defense. So, Ryan, is this the week Matthew and Stafford finally uncorks it and we see some creative big plays downfield? Come on.
Which Ryan?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was turning it back on you, Ryan Matthews. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We're 20 minutes into this thing, and I'm just now realizing that you're both named Ryan.
I've been paying to context clues like a mother, So, but no, I don't think that's going to be the case. I would love for the bye week to have changed Matt Patricia's offensive philosophy, but I don't think just 1 week's rest and maybe some, I don't know, any analytics or knowledge would get to his brain that would have him all of a sudden start airing the ball out in the way that the offense should, because I can totally see the Lions just going to Adrian Peterson time and time and time again in this game because they've had time during the bye week. Who knows what the status of the offensive line is? Maybe they could get Joe Dahl back. Who knows? Patricia was pretty mum about that in his presser today, I'm pretty sure. So maybe if they have a healthy offensive line, they're going to want to just attack that, porous Jags run defense. I would be more willing to bet on that than anything else.
Yeah. And if that's the case, this kind of turns from a shootout to almost the exact opposite. Just like each team trying to get those 8-minute 70-yard drives going. And if I'm picking sides on who's going to be more successful, it's probably going to be the one with the rookie running back running for 4.6 yards per carry.
That's interesting that you say that, though, because I kind of see it as the Lions would have more success with that. With everything that Ryan's been saying about Jacksonville's inconsistencies on offense, I think the Lions have been rather okay at running the football.
Sure. But wouldn't you say the Jaguars have been better at running the ball and the Lions worse at defending the run?
Okay, you make a really damn good point.
Is that how you see it, other Ryan?
Yeah, I think I do think that the Lions have an interesting stable of backs. At the time I thought the Adrian Peterson signing was going to make things pretty awkward. They just drafted DeAndre Swift. They got Kerryon Johnson, who's always dealing with injuries and such. But Peterson he hasn't looked all that bad. So. But still, my money's on James Robinson having the better game.
And I actually want to touch on one more thing with the Jaguars running game. And I saw some of Jaguars Twitter, I don't know, a little anxious over his use in last game. And I want to know if maybe this is a recurring thing. But it seems like a lot of people were bugged that they've abandoned the running games at times. They're obviously a little bit more successful on the ground than through the air. And they've hung, I believe that last game, they were hanging close with Houston until the very, the fourth quarter is like a one-possession game, but they had basically abandoned the run. Is that how you have seen it, and maybe why we've seen some of these inconsistencies with their offense?
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier that, a lot of it I think has to do with game script and Jacksonville always having to play from behind these last several weeks. I think 3 or 4 weeks in a row now, Minshew's had to throw the ball over 40 times or 40 times at least. And, that's just not really his game. Like in the first game that they won against the Colts, he only threw it 20 times. So, I think the more you can give the ball to Robinson the better. And that's why I was saying, like, I think if you give it to him early, let him grind the clock, open things up a little bit in the passing game, and then you actually are playing with the lead late into the game, and you can rely on him and give him the ball to drain the clock and get the win. And, that's the strategy that I would take.
All right, well then let's move on to our predictions portion of our First Bite podcast. And if you're new to First Bite, what we do is not necessarily a score prediction. We like to call it the one thing we think we know about this game. It can be anything. It can be from we expect this guy to get this many yards, we expect this many sacks to happen, or it can be a final score prediction. So we're going to kick it off with Ryan Matthews to show you how it's done. Ryan Oblenes.
All right.
I was gonna say that my only request is that you refer to me as Dear Ryan for the rest of the podcast, but now I don't even get that. So here's the one thing I think I know, and we're performing a little Pride of Detroit synergy here, because if you're listening to what my one thing I think I know is, you're going to see it maybe potentially pop up on the podcast on Sunday, because this is like a new little thing that we're trying out here. This is actually some intel I got from my good friend BK69. He told me that a surefire bet is the Lions over 27.5 points this week. I think that this is their first week that they actually score 30 points in a game. And I mean, I'm even putting money on it. It's bet $10 to win $6.90, and I'm not kidding.
And by you're betting on it, you mean your friend is betting on it.
Did I mess up?
All right, that's interesting. We'll have to check on that bet when we check back in after our post game podcast on our live on our Twitch channel, which usually happens around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. I don't even remember what we do. 7 p.m. All right, Ryan, other Ryan, undear Ryan. What is your one thing you think you know?
Is it too soon to say that the Lions blow another fourth quarter lead?
Why not? I mean, it's we haven't done it in one game. We blew the first quarter lead.
Like I said, I think this is going to be a close game all the way through. But I think the Jaguars sneak it out at the end.
Fair enough. All right, the one thing I think I know. Yep, we're doing it again. DeAndre Swift is going to be a big part of the offense. Finally, listen.
Bench him now on your fantasy lineups.
Nope. Listen,
him.
last week he got 8 touches and turned them into like 50, 60 yards. Is that a huge thing? No, but it's progress.
Touchdown catch?
He had a touchdown catch. He's going to have at least 100 all-purpose yards in this game. Book it.
Oh.
Put money on that, BK69. Wherever you may be. All right.
Do you really think that's the case though? I mean, like with DeAndre Swift.
I honestly I do expect him to continually get more and more touches, and I think why not this game? I mean, you see them use speed occasionally in their offense, whether it is to draw people away from like a guy like Kenny Galladay, or just there's just so much open space in the middle that, I mean, they're using Jamal Agnew. They used Jamal Agnew a lot last year. I don't know why they don't just use DeAndre Swift in that same role, essentially. And so I do think it's going to eventually happen. And why not after, we've had a week of bye. DeAndre Swift's fully healthy now. He entered the season with an injury. He's ready. This is it. This time I'm for sure. This is happening.
I had a really sad thought that I want to share very quickly.
Oh, no.
When you said that DeAndre Swift made an improvement last week, and I said, yeah, he caught a touchdown pass. That is an improvement from week 1.
Ryan, because I don't want to talk to that Ryan anymore. Do you have anything to promote over at Big Cat Country that Lions fans might be interested in?
We'll have the Q&A with Mike from your staff up probably tomorrow. Come over and check that out. We'll have a lot of great content up about the matchup throughout the week. So just go to bigcatcountry.com, follow us on Twitter for all the content.
And what's your personal Twitter account so that people can follow you as well?
It's just at Ryan Oblenis.
Perfect. All right, you've heard it. All right, that'll do it for First Bite. Thank you all for joining us. Be sure to tune in to our post-game press conference / podcast. I don't know. We're probably not going to do a press conference because it's just going to be us talking to ourselves. But tune in, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit to watch live, or we throw up all these things on YouTube as well. Just search for Pride of Detroit on YouTube. But until then, it's chaos. Be kind.
Bye.
Bye. All right. We've stopped recording. We are still live on Twitch. We like to hang around for a couple extra minutes. But Ryan, if you got to go, either one of the Ryans, if either of you got to go, you can go. But probably just be like 5-10 more minutes. Then we'll be out.
I can hang for a little.
Cool.
I'll hang out.
All right.
You get both Ryans.
Yes.
Yeah, double.
Let's see. Apparently, people don't agree with my DeAndre Swift predictions. Nick,
I don't see it happening either.
No, why not?
I think that I think I can say with like almost absolute certainty that Adrian Peterson's going to get more touches than DeAndre Swift.
Do you think that's ever going to change in this year?
Do I think it's going to, or do I want it to?
Do I think?
'Cause those are two different answers.
I know what your answer is. Do you want it to? Do you think it happens at all this entire season?
Not if Adrian Peterson's healthy.
So my question is, though, why did they, spend a second round pick on Swift? They just did it with Kerryon Johnson, and then they go out and sign Adrian Peterson. I just don't get it.
Because they want to make Jeremy hurt.
I've been, since they traded up to get Kerryon Johnson, I have been banging the table that's way too early to draft a running back ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't care what your situation is like.
I wonder what your evidence could be.
Let's look at Jacksonville. What happened?
Jaguars took Fournette fourth overall. At least take McCaffrey if you're going to do that. They could have had Mahomes. They could have had Watson.
Dave Burkett literally asked Matt Patricia today, why is the team continuing to draft second-round running backs when they have Adrian Peterson and when the Jaguars are killing it with an undrafted rookie? And I don't know.
Yeah.
He did what he normally does, which is talk for 5 minutes and not answer the question.
Select it.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do.
I kind of want to actually read his response now. Let me see if I can pull up the transcript. Let's see. On if he subscribes to the theory that it's easy to find contributors at a running back position. That's a good question. I don't know if I'm going to wrap any players into that theory or just talk about it in general. Yeah, I think from that standpoint, all the way across the board, you find players hopefully that may come out of different situations. And just like I said, maybe on Monday, when they get into the NFL, something happens and the light bulb comes on and they play really well, whether it's linebacker position, the corner position, all the way across the board. Yada, yada, yada. You can tell he's clearly not answering the question and not expecting him to. But
So how long do you guys think he lasts?
I think I prescribed.
We had a big talk about this on our podcast last week.
I think actually on our man coverage podcast with Ben Raven this week, I think I'm with him that says if they lose the next 2 games, it could happen. Otherwise, it'll probably happen at the end of the season.
Yeah, makes sense.
Losing to the Jaguars and Falcons would be bad. Real bad.
Yeah, it would be bad.
Especially, I said on the podcast something along the lines of they should really take a long, hard look at it if they lose this week coming out of a bye, having, all that time to prepare for Jacksonville, who seems to be a middle of the road team at best. Like, if they lose in convincing fashion to Jacksonville, or you know what, even if they lose in like similar fashion to how they've lost,
if they
to
blow
like
a fourth
Chicago.
Quarter lead, that's not going to be any better.
Yeah. That's what got Dan Quinn fired in Atlanta too.
Is Jacksonville in any danger of making big sweeping changes? I haven't really heard much.
So it's weird because a lot of people expected them to be fired after last season.
Yeah.
And then this year, everybody was going into it like, oh, they're tanking, but Doug Marrone and Dave Caldwell, the GM, have said we're not tanking, our jobs are on the line. But it's so if your jobs are on the line, why are you banking on this super young roster that's not going to win very many games? Because if you end up going 3-13, 4-12 or whatever, you should be fired. But are they going to use the excuse that, oh, this team is super young, we like the progress, we're going to keep these guys around, and it's just going to be the same? So there's the, Marone's kind of on the hot seat, and I think Dave Caldwell is definitely on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Bob Quinn probably is too, right?
Oh yeah. At this point, I mean, I kind of went in waves. Like when they first hired each other, it seemed very clear that they were tied at the hip. They even signed exact same terms of their contract. Then I kind of got a hint that they might not be as tied to each other as possible. But now, seeing everything that's happened, it's just like, how can they not be tied together? They're working towards the same goal. They're trying to build the exact same team.
Yeah, I was gonna say this offseason. That's what I was gonna say. Like this offseason was more like, becoming Patriots West than I think any other season before this with Patricia. I mean, it was like really heavy-handed. Like Jamie Collins, Danny Shelton, Duron Harmon. It was just like guy after guy after guy walking through that door was an expatriate.
And we've seen it too. Like it just seems like any of Belichick's or like disciples from the New England Patriots, they just don't seem to work out at other places. So
unless you're Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
But Vrabel never coached for the Patriots.
That's very true.
He was just a player.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Texans system.
But I mean, it's not like we could have ever had a chance at Mike Vrabel. We never would have gotten him in the doors to interview him or anything like that. That would never have happened.
I'm not the only one. You do it too.
I know. Listen, I have my moments of weakness where it's just like this fandom gets to be too much. All right. Anything else, chat, before we get out of here? I know our numbers are a little down, and I wonder why that is.
This is the NFL game of the week.
I know. Can't you read the sign, guys?
It's going to be an exciting game. I don't know who everybody's talking about.
Who do they have on the call? It's like Brock Heward and Greg Jennings.
I don't know.
I'm serious.
I think maybe Stewie from Family Guy is calling it.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is the NFL distribution map, which is like Michigan is orange, and then the tiniest pocket of Florida is orange, and nothing else. No one else wants to.
That is every Jaguars game. It is so hard for me to watch them if I don't go over to my buddy's house who has the NFL ticket, or if I don't, get red zone, or I'm not really going to bars these days, to catch it. So.
By the way, if you haven't seen it, Chad, this is literally it. This orange pocket is the Lions game, and then this little tiny pocket of Jacksonville. Everyone else is like, get me the F away from this game.
I think, for Lions fans and Jags fans, I do, like I said, I really see this game being close and being kind of exciting. We'll see, but
there you go. It's Chris Myers, Brock Heward, and Greg Jennings. That's who you said, right?
Yeah, I had Brock Heward and Greg Jennings right. I didn't know who was doing the play-by-play.
Yeah,
honestly forgot Greg Jennings is broadcasting that.
Yes, Marvin, it's not Tom Brenneman. No Tom Brenneman games this year, I'm pretty sure. All right.
Best tweet of the night last night.
We'll let you guys find that one on your own.
Yeah.
Who would you take as your lead back, Carry-On or Robinson? It'd have to be Robinson, right?
Carry-On's not a lead back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take Robinson in that scenario.
Where did Robinson come from?
Illinois State.
Are they the Jaguars too? What's Illinois State?
No, I think they're like the Cardinals or something.
Now I'm curious.
That would be that's
Redbirds.
like my favorite
Illinois
thing.
State Redbirds.
Redbirds. Yeah. All right.
It's my favorite thing, like when places have like when schools have mascots that like are not indigenous to that area whatsoever. So if it was like the Illinois State Jungle Cats.
All right, this is going to be the perks of watching us live. To our live chat, I threw the tweet we were referencing in there.
You actually found it?
Oh yeah, just go right through our Slack page. All right, I think that's going to do it, guys. Thank you for joining us. Saturday, we'll have our Madden Sim right here on our Twitch page about 10:30 a.m. Saturday morning, and then obviously we'll be doing a post-game show right here, right after the game ends, and then we'll come back for the regular POD cast at 7 p.m., so a couple hours after the game. So Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to both of the Ryans for joining us on First Bite. And we will see you guys on Saturday.